Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello. For the next half hour, we are going to be talking about sustainability solutions for wildfires, hotels, and other industries, especially converting waste streams into commodities and tackling wildfires with fuel reduction technologies. With my guest, Charles Smith. He is CEO of many companies, including Stonebridge Sustainability Solutions, Integrated Sustainability Solutions, Hotel Sustainability Solutions, Window Film Depot, Gold Seal Industries, Vertafaro Analytics, and he was formerly Senior Vice President of Real Estate with Bental Corporation, formerly Chairman, CEO, Managing Partner with Troy Investment Partnership, Troy Equities Corporation, and formerly CEO, Chairman of Hawaiian Macadamia of Maui, and manager of Pittsburgh Plate Glass. His company, Hotel Sustainability Solutions, was awarded the Governor of California's prestigious Governor's Environmental Economic Leadership Award, where they provided over 34 sustainability initiatives for the hotel industry. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I feel privileged to be here today. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you describe so many of the new, innovative sustainability technologies that you're involved with, because you basically believe that climate change is a very massive problem that must be dealt with and is causing a lot of issues. Why do you think that we need to tackle this in terms of the waste stream?
That would refer to Stonebridge Sustainability Solutions, Inc. The waste streams that we have in the country are in the billions of tons, and they're all going into landfills. And landfills are negative to our climate and climate change initiatives. For example, when MSW, which is municipal solid waste, was included organic waste products, 60% of the weight was water, and that water would percolate down and create methane. And then methane then is released in the environment, and it's one of our nastiest things. So the idea was, how do we have to convert that into a circular economy approach, whereby the waste streams convert themselves to some form of commodity, whether it be renewable electricity, whether it be biofuels, whether it be biochar. There's all kinds of graphene, and there's all kinds of commodities that can be produced from those. And that's what we set out to do with that technology, was to bring that to the forefront. And right now we're focused on biomass. We just recently read about the Park Fire, consumed 400,000 acres plus of biomass, which is the fuel that fuels these fires. We have to find ways to eliminate landfills. They're very negative. We have to find ways to create circular economy and take these waste streams and put them back into the economy in a very healthy manner.
Your websites have some wonderful diagrams and information that's available to what can be done. And I'm looking at one where you show feedstocks range, and you call those everything from municipal solid waste, used tires, plastic, cooking oils, medical waste, agricultural waste, biomass, and how those can be converted into commodities like electricity, transportation fuels, biochar, carbon black, activated carbon, soil enhancement, so many other ways that we can use the materials that we are creating rather than, as you say, putting them into landfills. How much is going on in this area? Because I know the trash is still picked up and very little is recycled, very little is reused.
The only thing on that list that you were referring to, feedstocks, that we cannot convert to a commodity is radioactive, explosives, or nuclear. They're the only three, and that's by federal law that you can't do anything with those. But everything else, we have the ability to convert to a commodity that can be reused in the economy. One of our core philosophies is integration. And if you can integrate products, technologies, and systems to produce a technology that has the ability to do what we can do, it's really a giant step forward. And that's exactly what Gold Seal Industries has created, is they've created a commodity that can do all these feedstocks, convert them into all forms of commodities, and put them back into the marketplace again. We target landfills, we target sewage treatment plants, we target dairy operations. Recent illustration of that is is that the Everglades have become threatened, and they've become threatened by the dairy industry in the state of Florida. They're getting ready to post billions of dollars to try to solve that problem because the waterways and the Everglades are being affected. So having a technology that can go anywhere, one of the key things about the technology, it's mobile, and it has no emissions. And because of the mobility, we can go and tackle a 10,000-acre forest project, and then they move it again to another 10,000-acre forest project because of the mobility factor. And the fact that we're addressing emissions is important because I don't know if the public knows, but the two largest forest fires in California last year wiped out 17 years of progress in emission reductions in the state of California. And the forest fires are tremendous pollution. And so one of the things we try to do is we try to eliminate any emissions that we can from operations on the field and the fuels that we produce, and not having emissions, eliminating burn piles, which is what they do now with surplus stuff on the winter. So all those things are part of an overall approach to tackle the climate change initiatives that we have.
In fact, in California, $1.2 billion was spent to suppress fires in 2023, and nationwide, wildfires had the economic burden of over $394 billion, and on a national scale, annual economic burden of wildfires is between $394 billion and $893 billion. So not only are people's homes and communities threatened by wildfires, and of course the loss of habitat to wildlife, but the cost to our economy is serious with wildfires.
Yeah, addressing that issue, the Bureau of Land Management, the USDA, and the U.S. Forest Service came out with a report recently, and they indicated that there are 20 major areas of the United States forestry that need immediate attention. And of that total, 17 million of it is in the 8 western states. That 17 million acres is going to generate, according to their estimate, 352 million tons of biomass. That's the fuel that's left in the forest. I recently was in Plumas National Forest on a walkthrough, and we couldn't even walk through some of the areas of the forest because it was so dense and so thick. If you take that 352 million and you spread it across the 8 western states, it's an enormous amount, and there's lots of use for it. There's biomass plants that can use it. There's tribal communities that need the firewood and things like that. All those uses do not come close to being able to process that biomass and convert it into commodities. There are some technologies out there that can do one thing or two things. There's no other technology out there that can do the multiplicity of things we can, and the multiplicity of both commodities and the feedstock. One of the things that we have been successful in doing to mitigate risk is our technology, operational performance, is guaranteed by insurer from the London Insurance Exchange, which means that what we say we're going to do, it's going to happen, or it's guaranteed to correct it right away. We really think we have brought something to the marketplace and to a great need that fits right in with all the climate initiatives that are being addressed.
Certainly, if there are forest fires and there's waste from those fires, the forests need to be cleaned up. Hopefully, in the cleanup, you'll be able to leave some of the seedlings and allow the forest to regenerate, although you are removing some of the wood piles, the logs, the wood chips that are created. I'm curious how you are managing the cleanup, taking that waste and putting it into useful products, and yet allowing some of the forest biomass to stay so that the forest can regenerate faster and better.
Well, two things we do with that. One is one of the byproducts we produce is biochar, which is a soil amendment, and it comes from the processing of the biomass itself. One of the things we're working on with the U.S. Forest Service right now is a possibility to create a circular economy, which has never been done before in forest operations. There's post-fire, which is after a fire has ravaged through an area, and there's the new biomass generation that's going on. We process both of those, and sometimes the BTU values, which is important to our process, has to be enriched with some green, newly cut trees and forestry biomass activities. But when the biochar is produced, it's one of those things that we're looking at blowing back into the forest in the burned out areas to accelerate revegetation. We haven't finalized that yet, but it is a thing we're considering, and that gives us another commodity that's circulated back into the economy again, back into the forest in a very positive manner. Biochar is a slow release, so it allows over a period of time continuous release of the nutrients that are necessary to help revegetation. If we can blow it back in the way we're talking about it, it's going to have a tremendous effect on regrowth.
Emissions from two of California's largest wildfires displaced over 18 years of emission reduction efforts. I don't think that we often think about the fact that one wildfire can eliminate the work that we're doing to try and clean up our emissions.
That's a true statement, the observation on your part. Recently, the air quality management districts are concerned about the emission releases and the type of emissions that are released in the forest fires. One of the tactics that has been used for many years has been certain logs that are not able to be shipped to a mill for processing into lumber. They just get stacked up into a pile called a burn pile. And in the wintertime, when there's snow on the ground or whatever the conditions are, certainly conditions that are not subject to a possible fire, they then light those up and burn those off. Well, that's just the same as a wildfire. Emissions coming off of that same material is the same as wildfire. So what we are able to do is we're able to convert those to take that same wood, run it through our system, and eliminate the burn pile emissions. We also, with the biofuels we're making, 65% of the biofuels by the EPA is considered to be a reduction of emissions by 65%. And then by the process of eliminating what has been the standard process, the biomass has been pulled out of the forest. It's chipped up, put into trucks, and carted off to a landfill someplace or to a biomass plant or something else. What we have done is if one of our units will process 35,100 tons a year of biomass. Now, if you take that same 35,100 and do it the old way that's been done, that would be 1,596 truckloads out of the project area to someplace. And then another 1,596 coming back into the project again. So by processing right on the site, which is what our mobility does, it eliminates those emissions as well. So we're attacking emissions in burn piles, we're attacking emissions in the trucking that traditionally has gone in and out. It doesn't have to go in and out anymore. And by using the fuels that we produce on the site, we have a 65% reduction of emissions in the operations, in the field operations of the project. So we think we're doing our job to try to help mitigate some of the climate change issues that we're faced with.
What exactly is the technology? Do you collect all this material, take it to a factory and reprocess it, or what do you do?
No, the key issue to developing this technology is the mobility issue. For example, wherever the waste streams are, wherever they are, landfill or whether it be a sewage treatment plant or whether it be a forestry project, the technology, by its mobility, goes to those areas and processes it on site. That's the major change and major difference in the technology.
The United States is a large country. How many areas can you service?
We'll service wherever there's a request and a demand, anywhere in the country, because we can travel. Like when I do a hotel project, I have maybe sometimes 20, 30 companies at the same time with their people working on a project. Could be 60 people working on a project. So we go in the area and we try to do a local sourcing of the materials and the technologies that we have. If we can't find that local sourcing, then we bring in from other areas that we have successfully built relationships.
Are you able to do your sustainability technology in other countries and on other continents, or are there other companies in other countries that are doing what you're doing?
Again, they're doing only one component of it. Our operational performance guarantee by the London Insurance Exchange is a global, so we can go anywhere in the world. In fact, that's part of the responsibility of Stonebridge, is to bring the technology in a global position. So we do have some people developing interest in different countries right now because of all the things we can do and the deprivation they have and the things that they need. So fuel, water, agriculture, all those things we can contribute to. So yes, it is a global. We do not have anything operating globally at this time, but I'm sure we will within next year.
Where did the name Stonebridge Sustainability Solutions come from?
The hotel and integrated relate to the industry they're in. Stonebridge was like a bridge between needs and technology and how to integrate those. And the only word I could ever come up with was the word Stonebridge. It had strength and capability of carrying the weight back and forth. That's all I can say. It was no science to it. It's just grabbing for something that would somewhat depict the idea of integration of products, technologies, and systems.
You certainly have a major passion to provide sustainability solutions, and we are going to talk more with Charles Smith about what can be done to help improve our sustainability operations when we return in a moment.
Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman continues with further discussion of the world's critical ecological issues. For more information, you may call 310-559-9160 or go to www.ecoprojects.org. Now, here's Nancy.
I'm speaking with Charles Smith, CEO of Stonebridge Sustainability Solutions. You also have strategic partners to have systems integration that provides adaptability, reliability, and cost effectiveness. Many different companies. How many companies are doing what you're doing? And exactly what is your technology if I went out to see you doing it?
First of all, let me start with how the technology came about. Kim Kirkendall, now his son, Evan Kirkendall, are the CEO and managing partners of Gold Seal Industries. Stonebridge has a responsibility to bring this technology into the marketplace, as we have with some other things, other technologies. They're basically a systems integrator, which is this integration concept I've talked about. And what they've gone into all these companies is pulled parts of what they do out of their inventories, assembled them together to create electromagnetic induction heating, which is the basic principle of our system. And those companies are all 100 to 125 years old. What we were able to do is, because of the strength of those companies, was one of the reasons why we were able to get Lloyd's of London or any of the other insurers in the London Exchange to put the guarantee on it, because these companies also give us a 20 or 25-year warranty extension on all their commodities that are in the system. So by meshing together and integrating these various technologies into the form of the technology that we use has been a really exciting journey to be on. And that's how we got the operational guarantee, because all these technologies that we use are also guaranteed.
Are you only working in the United States, or has this technology been applied on other continents, or are there other companies doing the same thing?
No, we know of nobody else in the marketplace that can do what we do and make commodities simultaneously at the same time. One of the most important things that we address is that biomass plant produces renewable energy, and if it doesn't produce enough energy, it usually becomes a failure. And recently in the White River National Forest, a plant was a biomass plant called the gypsum plant. It could not produce enough electricity for what it was called to produce, so they closed it and it went bankrupt. Now all that biomass is backed up into White River National Forest, trying to figure out what to do with it. And that's the difficulty that happens when you only produce one thing. What we do is, if we were producing electricity and we reached the cap of the amount of electricity we were able to produce, we would shift our production to biochar. We would shift our production to some other commodity. And because we can move around, we have the ability uniquely to adjust to economic market conditions, fluctuations in pricing or demand. And so what we do is we use what we can on the sites, but then we, through an offtake agreement, sell the rest of it off to wholesalers so that we maintain a strong economic viable project.
So often when companies suggest sustainability solutions, agencies are reluctant to make changes because they say, oh, it'll cost more. But doesn't it really cost less because the savings in the long run are better, plus we're helping the environment?
The conclusions are great, but it has not been easy to bring such a dramatically different technology into a marketplace. And we have so many markets we can go into. As you pointed out earlier, MSW, we can go into the biomass forestry, we can go into tires, we can go into sewage sludge, we can go into animal waste, or there's just all kinds of ways that we can shift and change. And that's the big difference between the Gold Seal technology and existing technologies, is many of them are single purpose, and by that I mean they produce a single commodity. And China a couple of years ago stopped accepting all kinds of waste products from the United States, and all we found was all over the United States was larger industrial spaces being leased for 300,000 square feet to store this stuff. And that was because they were single purpose driven in what they could do. So it's important to have diversification. It's important to be able to make adjustments as they're necessary. It was one of the things where I worked with the U.S. Forest Service in Flagstaff, Arizona, with their innovation team. And their innovation team sat down and worked with me and put down a whole list of all the issues and problems that they were having in biomass in the forestry operation. And that's how I really got interested in the biomass portion of it. And in that, when that list was produced, then my responsibility, or Gold Seal's responsibility and myself, was to list how we would address every single one of those conditions and issues. And we were able to do it. And that's what gave us the momentum to move forward with the technology and be able to address the one aspect of climate change, and that's the biomass aspect of it. Our forests are really beautiful. And I mean, when you go through them, but for that 400,000 acre fire that just went through, the Park Fire, if you just think about 400,000 acres of open space that the public and we all used and hiked in, and all the things that we do, the wildlife we would see, it's all gone. And that's how important it is to address the climate change issues that relate to higher winds. Our fire season has started weeks ahead of time from what we usually feel. Last week I was making a presentation on the technology, and there were 9 fires going on in just the state of California. And there were equal numbers going on in New Mexico and Colorado and Arizona and Idaho and Portland. It's really a major issue that we need to address. We're trying to do our part to address it in a way that's a very positive outcome, where we don't generate emissions, where we help protect the forest areas. It's important that we protect those forest areas for wildlife and habitation and watersheds. One of the fires recently, it happened in New Mexico. The rain came down right afterwards and washed all that silt into the reservoir. The reservoir turbines got plugged up, and now they can't even provide water for their customers until they get this all solved. So it has a lot of ramifications. Forest fires have many ramifications that affect us.
Climate change has certainly brought a change in what's going on with, quote, the natural disasters caused by a lot of human actions, whether or not it's forest fires, flooding, hurricanes. You are on the ground providing sustainable solutions, but don't we need a stronger social consciousness to really make this happen in bigger and better ways?
Yes. What we need not only for the populace to be able to become more sensitive to the impact of climate change, but also for the government agencies where these technologies can be brought into to have a open-mindedness to new technologies and doing things differently. If we can begin to get that, then I think we can start making progress against it, because right now, just as I cited earlier, the number of fires going on in 3 or 4 states at one time, we've got to find a solution to protect the forestry areas, and we've got to find a way to get rid of landfills that are causing problems for the environment as well. All these components that are making a contribution to our crises in climate change need to become much more sensitive, much more aware, and much more open-minded to new approaches. I think that the frustration that often new technologies have is trying to get through I'm going to call it the bureaucratic process, but it's the approval process is probably a better word to use. To get through the approval processes and also acceptance that they can do something that hasn't been done before. And that's where new technologies really have a platform to bring solutions. We should know this because of what we learned from the space shots and then walking on the moon and all that. The technology has a major place in our environment, and it has a major ability to make a contribution to climate change.
You're trying to provide solutions in many different areas. As a business person, you obviously have created numerous companies that you are CEO of and are operating. I would like to find out more about your Hotel Sustainability Solutions, Inc. company and some of the 34 sustainability initiatives that were implemented in reducing operational costs, added asset value to ownership, and achieved environmental compliance for some hotels that received the California Governor's prestigious Environmental Economic Leadership Award.
Yeah, that's where all this started. That's where my journey started into sustainability. At the time that I formed Hotel Sustainability, it was following, I was tapped to work with a company that had just gone public with the REIT and had a lot of money, $1 billion in the bank, and they looked at around and they said, our portfolio is much too regional, we need to expand it. So I was tapped because of my real estate background to help build hotels. And I was building hotels in Reno, Nevada, California, and Overland Park, etc. And it was a time when green building products began to surface in the marketplace. And I got really interested in the green building products because I thought that might be the best way to go. So I started studying what was going on in Europe, and a lot of times we find Europe in a leadership position. And I found out that sustainability was really going to become an important issue. So I thought, well, I'm going to take a shot at this. So Tom Hewitt was CEO of Interstate Hotels, which is the largest privately owned and management company in the United States. I went to Tom, who I knew from Pittsburgh, my hometown, and I said, Tom, if you're going to maintain your number one position position in property and hospitality management, you're going to have to address this issue of what's coming up, and that's going to be sustainability. I said, it's not going to come ashore as a trickle. It's going to come ashore as a tsunami. So after a couple months of discussions back and forth and demonstrating, Tom said, let's do the hotel, Hilton Hotel in Concord, California. And that's where we implemented the 34 sustainability initiatives in that process. We did things there that we had learned. We had some learning curves there, too. For example, we put in one of the largest EV car charging stations at that time in that region up there. And we thought that people would come in the early hours of the morning or late hours of the night and charge their cars. And it turned out they came in the middle of the day when we were paying 43 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. So what we had to do is we had to put storage batteries in so we could produce during the night when it was cheaper and offload it during the day when the people were coming to fill the charge. The other thing we did is we changed the laundry system on, and we saved 1 million gallons of water a year that they were using. In the process of doing that, we changed the G-force in the washer systems. So when we were done, we only had to have half the time in the dryers. Then we put sensors in the paddles in the dryers so that they would only dry to that level. If you've ever been in a hotel when the towels feel very hard, it's because they've over-dried them. And so what we did was we were able to reduce gas, we were able to reduce the labor, we were able to reduce the water, and we were able to reduce the detergents used because we used ozone. That was one of the things that we did and we were excited about. Another thing we did there was we were doing what they call a PIP. It's a Planned Improvement Program. And we had 2,800 pillows that were going to be tossed into the landfill. And we said, no way, because it takes about 18 to 20 years for a pillow to break down in a landfill. So what we did was we found a technology in Charleston, South Carolina, that actually allowed us to open up the pillows, dump the down feathers in through ozone and also with ultraviolet, purified those feathers. We added new feathers in, and we redid the pillows into new pillowcases and put them back in the hotel. We paid for that technology in 5 months doing that. The pillows became so popular at the hotel that they had to put them in the stores. And at Christmas time, they were shipping them out as Christmas gifts. So it was kind of a fun little project we had done. That was another thing we did there. The other thing we did, they have a banquet capability there as well as a restaurant. We found a way to decompose the food waste, convert it back into gray water, send it back to the waste treatment plant, and then they brought it out as water for irrigation. So those were some of the things we did. We did LED lighting there. We did all kinds of it. There were 34 different sustainability initiatives. We added about $12 million to the asset value. We reduced operating costs by close to $400,000. And so we achieved our goal and our objective, and at least 4 of the sustainability initiatives were paid for by incentives given by the utility companies. It was a fun project. It was a really great project. But how I got into the waste component was I sat in my room every night looking out this window and watched a full container of trash being carried out of that hotel. And it was all going to a landfill. And it was everything from plastic bottles to, just food waste, everything. And so that really got me interested in saying there's got to be a way to take this waste and convert it into something useful. And that's when I met Kim Kirkendall, who was developing this technology that we use now in Gold Seal Industries, and found a way to do that because one of the things that Gold Seal is developing is a 25-ton unit, because our units now are 100 tons. A 25-ton unit could be used in a hotel to convert all the waste in the hotel into electricity and help power the hotel. There's all kinds of ways in which you can attack the issues.
So many great ideas, and I wish we had time to have you detail them and tell us more about them. What website can they go to get more information and contact you?
We have all the websites connected to one. So if you go to www.hotelsustainabilityinc.com, it will take you to all the other companies are all on the same website, and then you can just pick the one you want to follow through with and hit all the right buttons, and you can track the results. You'll get to Stonebridge's website on the hotel, or if you dial www.stonebridgesustainabilityinc.com, that'll take you to the site and give you a hotel and integrated, and the collaboration agreements we have with Vertifero and the window film as well.
Thank you so very much for all your wonderful work. Keep it up, and I hope that it's a model for other companies to follow. We certainly need these sustainability solutions. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Nancy. It was a privilege for us to be here with you.
I have been speaking with Charles Smith, CEO of Stonebridge Sustainability Solutions and Hotel Sustainability Solutions. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Pearlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.